What's up guys, it's McKeown back again with another video this week. Today we're going to be discussing the largest mistakes that probably most of you as new investors tend to make. So first things first, we're gonna dive in on the first topic of discussion, and that is doing everything on your own. If you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, that's probably the first sight of you guys going in the right direction, but we're talking about people that just watch a tutorial on investing in real estate, and before you know it, they're buying their first investment property with no clue really what they're doing at the end of the day. So again, if you're on my YouTube channel, if you are researching, if you're learning, if you're surrounding yourself with the right type of people, that is step one. Do not, and I repeat, do not do everything on your own. You need to surround yourself with the right type of people. That means real estate agent, that means lender, that means insurance agent, maybe a reworking or remodeling crew. At the end of the day, do not go at potentially one of the largest investments that you will ever make in your life by yourself. So the next thing that a lot of new investors do is they don't coordinate a plan. So to give you guys some kind of track record with what my plan was, I honestly did this from day one. I was actually in San Antonio, wanted to get into real estate investing. I went to a bunch of real estate investment meetups. I then just figured, okay, I'm gonna do this all on my own, maybe get a real estate agent that honestly at that time, it didn't really help me. So I actually got, I think 4 or 5 multifamilies under contract. Lo and behold, the one that actually got far enough along where I got an appraisal done, at that point I was not offered rehirement at the current teaching job in San Antonio. So I wasted $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on option periods, on inspection periods in terms of getting the properties inspected. And the last property I even paid for an appraisal to be told at the end of the day that, oh, you can't qualify for a loan. So at the end of the day, you guys need to come up with a solid plan. The solid plan should not be just your plan. It should be a plan that, going back to the first mistake that a lot of people do, is they don't consult with anyone else besides themselves. Surround yourself with people that can kind of coordinate that plan for you. That way you don't wind up in the same position I was, where as a high school teacher, making $50K a year, to lose $3,000 to $4,000 in real estate expenses and not get a single property from it was a big step backwards. So again, do not go at this alone. Make sure that you are surrounding yourself with great people, and make sure that you have a plan in place, a plan that also is attainable. To be honest with you, I get a ton of people reaching out to me with goals that are not attainable, meaning that they're trying to find a 10% cash on cash return here in the DFW market. It doesn't exist. They're also coming into play here wanting to invest in the DFW market, saying, hey, I'm just going to listen to a Bigger Pockets podcast, find out what the BRRRR method is. I'm gonna do the BRRRR method 10 times and retire in 5 years. To be honest with you guys, 4.5 years in this market, I've seen one property, and it was a property that I purchased that was even possible to use the BRRRR method. So again, make sure you have a plan, but also make sure you have a plan that is attainable. Now, the next thing I think is one of my favorite mistakes, and again, I'm not someone that wants you guys to make a mistake, but a lot of people reach out to me and want to get into real estate investing because all they see on TV is the rich are in real estate. Well, to be honest with you, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a very much play it for many years, many decades to come. And guess what? When you're 40, when you're 50, when you're 60 and retired, you're gonna be in a much more comfortable spot than you are now because you invested in real estate. But again, this is not an opportunity for you to go out today and you're gonna be rich tomorrow or rich next year or rich in 4 years. To be honest with you, a majority of the income that I make is from my real estate sales, not my real estate investments. Now, my real estate investments are, net worth wise, probably a considerable amount of my net worth, but that's just because I've been fortunate enough to be in a great market. That appreciation has taken off. Cash flow's been nice, but a majority of my annual income comes from the hard work that I put in and day out with just residential and a little bit of commercial real estate sales. Now, the next mistake that new real estate investors, and to be honest with you, not even necessarily new real estate investors, will make is purchasing a property that is just priced too high. Now, a lot of us can get anxious. A lot of people can be thrown a deal that, the numbers may be tight, but we're gonna make it work. Give you an idea, the property that I just finished, if you watch my videos, I intended on spending about 60, maybe 70K in rehab. I spent over $100,000. So you can imagine if I didn't pay an appropriate price, or maybe I overpaid for that, just how bad of a position I would be in sitting today with a property that I purchased too high and then went over my budget when it came to remodeling. Fortunately enough, I got that property at a steal of a price, and I did go over budget, so I was still fine at the end of the day. Now, when we're talking about investments, if you're looking to hold long term, I've made tons of videos before about it. I'm not a huge fan of flipping. If you're looking to purchase a property really and hold it long term, I've got a duplex and a quad, both at sub 2.5% interest rate using my VA loan. I don't think I'm ever going to sell either one of those probably in the next decade or two. And honestly, if you're gonna hold a property for at least 10 to 20 years, you can't really go wrong. Now, if you're looking to purchase a property in 2 years, turn around and sell it, you're gonna have to make sure the numbers are terrific. Now, the next mistake that I think all investors definitely make, but I think new investors deal with it the most, a lack of patience, meaning that you are just so anxious to get a deal. And to be honest with you, that was me in San Antonio. I watched a Bigger Pockets podcast. I read 4 or 5 books. I figured I was the expert. I figured I'm just gonna go out and do this on my own, get a real estate agent to write the contract because I wasn't a real estate agent at the time, and then just, move into a property. Well, first property was a detached unit in the back. It wasn't a true duplex. In terms of financing, it was gonna be a nightmare. And then we did an inspection. A bunch of stuff came back in terms of what was wrong. The seller wasn't willing to negotiate. That happened multiple times before I was even able to close on my first property when I moved to Dallas. Lack of patience will absolutely kill you, but also on the flip side too, I got licensed in 2017. I can tell you probably about 5 people that reached out to me in 2017, maybe early 2018, wanting to invest in real estate, and they still haven't. So just with lack of patience, analysis paralysis can absolutely kill you too. I have people that didn't invest in 2017. One in particular, I don't even know if I've told this story on my YouTube channel. I've told so many people in person. He wanted to invest in 2017, wound up getting a girlfriend instead, so wanted to lease a year. I reached back out to him in a year. Girlfriend was pregnant. They were gonna move into their family's house, so reached back out another year later and found out that they were moving back into an apartment with their newborn, and they still haven't honestly invested in real estate. There's no right or wrong way here, but he and their family could have been in a much different position just solely on appreciation had they purchased a house back in 2017. I can almost guarantee you, if you purchased a house in my local market, other markets probably even some more, if you purchased a property in 2017, you're sitting at about a 50 to 70K in equity for a starter home. Now, if you purchased a home that was even more expensive, you're probably in an even better situation. So he had his own life and his own story. I have my own life and my own story. There's no right or wrong, but at the end of the day, make sure that you're definitely not rushing into something, but also make sure that you're not taking 3 or 4 years to make a decision, because if you would have just made a decision then and not necessarily rushed into it, but just made a smart choice, you'd be sitting in a terrific position today. And regarding my personal metroplex, the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, I'm telling a lot of my investors, just personally, I think it's one of the safest places to invest in the entire USA. And the reason is we have so much diversity in terms of work here. We have so many people moving here, and it's not like any kind of slowdown or market crash is going to cause our metroplex to go under, like necessarily maybe, the Orlando, Florida, where you purchased an Airbnb, and because of the economic downturn, not a lot of people are going to Disney World anymore, so your occupancy with your Airbnb goes from 80% down to 40%, and now you're over under on your investment. Or maybe the Vegases, when the whole world shut down because of COVID in March of 2020. If you had an Airbnb in Vegas, you were struggling for a little bit. Another thing can be said with this too, timing the market. I can tell you right now, the interest rates are about as low as they ever are going to be. And even if you purchased a house right now at $350,000 at the current interest rates, and maybe instead of purchasing now, you wanted to wait 12 months. Well, in 12 months, the market kind of went back down. So instead of purchasing that same house for $350,000, now it's only worth $300,000. So you purchased that house at $300,000, but the interest rates went up. Now you're actually paying more for the house, paying more in interest rate. Your monthly payment's actually going to be higher with a slightly lower purchase price, but with a higher interest rate. So in terms of timing the market, there's a nice mix between, making sure you don't A, time the market, B, rush into it because you're not patient, or wait for forever because you're not able to find a property that's cash flowing. If you're in a single marketplace, for instance, parts of California. Honestly, I'm not an expert in California, but I can't imagine there's really any properties that are cash flowing in the large metroplexes in California. But at the end of the day, do you want to keep renting for $1,500 or $2,000 or maybe $2,500 a month in California? Or do you want to pay to purchase a single family, rent out the other 2 or 3 rooms, maybe close to break even, or maybe, you know, be in a situation where I'm at in this very house I'm filming this video in, I'm not breaking even. I guess on a good month, I'm breaking even. But I am having a 15-year note on this property, so my mortgage is substantially higher than a 30-year note, and I only have 1 roommate. I don't have 3. I also have a private Airbnb suite where I really don't have to do much with it. It's pretty much passive. So with an Airbnb suite and a roommate, I may not be breaking even, or maybe on a good month, I'll be breaking even, but it's a great investment when we're talking a 15-year note, having my mortgage paid down, as well as maybe paying a couple $100 for a brand new home to live in. Now, the last mistake that I would say is probably more along the lines of new investors making this particular mistake versus experienced investors. A lot of experienced investors, and this is the reason why I don't really get into commercial too much. All that matters at the end of the day with commercial is numbers. And as much as I love numbers, I'm a mathematician by trade. I have a degree in math. Math is fun, numbers are fun, but I build my business around relationships. A lot of my residential sales are good friends or clients that have turned into good friends. But the mistake that new investors make is they get emotionally attached to a property. Now, when I'm talking emotionally attached, let's say you and your significant other wanted to go buy a house and start investing. Well, you are comfortable, you know, with you and your significant other living upstairs in the master suite. You want to find 2 bedrooms downstairs to be able to rent to other people of your age. It's called house hacking if you do not know the term. You find a house that's $50,000 over your budget and it has a beautiful master suite, and the numbers don't necessarily work because it's $50,000 more expensive than what you are looking to purchase. But at the end of the day, you just love the house, you love the location, so you purchase it. It's not necessarily going to be the worst investment, but I always say this, the more you're willing to sacrifice, especially when it comes to your first property, maybe your first couple properties, it's going to help you tremendously when it comes to investing long term. So again, do not get tied to a property over its location. Do not get tied to a property because it's beautiful and modern and updated. Any property can be updated at the end of the day, and if a property is in maybe a little bit lesser, you know, of an ideal situation or area, it's probably gonna be cheaper and cash flow better. Now, if it's a primary residence, let's say you've invested 4 or 5 times, like this particular house, I wasn't necessarily going to be sacrificing in location or build. It's a brand new home in the middle of a downtown area that's totally revitalizing, and everyone wants to be in this area. So it really wasn't a sacrifice on build or quality or location. My sacrifice when it came to my 4th or 5th investment was having a roommate still at 32 years old. Having an Airbnb suite. So, you know, when I wake up at 4 a.m. for the gym, I have to be a little bit quieter, especially on weekends. Maybe if I wake up at 5 a.m. on weekends, because that Airbnb suite since December has been rented out every single weekend. Knowing I have to be quieter in the morning so I don't wake up my Airbnb guests, which are on the other side of the wall when it comes to my kitchen area. That is all a sacrifice I was willing to make with this particular property, with the numbers not being absolutely perfect, because at the end of the day, it was my 4th investment and my cash flow from my other properties are helping me afford this. Now, if we're talking emotional would have been me making this purchase as my first investment property. It would absolutely make no sense for me to go downtown, spend an exorbitant amount of money to build a house, even if I was going to have a roommate, and even if I was going to have an Airbnb suite. This is something I would never undertake without previous cash flow and property. So again, make sure you do not get attached to a property if it's an investment property, and especially if you're a new investor. If it's a primary property for you and your wife or your family, let's say you've been investing for some time and you're not a new investor, that's a completely different story. But when we're coming to new investors making their first or second purchase, I even have a situation right now with one of the viewers that is wanting to purchase a new construction 4-plex rather than a little bit older 4-plex. It sounds like he's more inclined to purchase something new because it's nice and flashy, but there's no level of sacrifice there. So it ultimately could hurt him down the road when it comes to purchasing property number 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So do not get attached early on as a new investor when it comes to buying investment properties. If you guys have any questions when it comes to purchasing an investment property, maybe you just found my YouTube channel, maybe you have been watching for quite some time and you want to get connected, feel free to reach out to me. I am open for any kind of discussion over email or over Instagram. It'll be in the description down below. below. Also, feel free to leave any kind of questions in the comment section below. I make sure to get back to just about every single comment at this point. I'd love to hear from you guys. But thanks again for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video.